What's going on, guys? Time to do transfer case on the old Comanche finally. It's about darn time. So I just got back from the parts store grabbing the adapter gasket. Just a Felpro paper gasket. For some reason I always have issues with these gaskets leaking. Literally this one, I've probably swapped this gasket out. I don't know. I've probably put 4 different 261 transfer cases in this thing because they keep on skipping, and then obviously replacing the gasket and whatnot, but I can't stop them from leaking. I've tried putting little tiny bit of RTV around, let's see here, just around the mating surface, like insanely thin layer, and then plopping the gasket on. That didn't work. I've done just the gasket itself, everything. Some reason I can't get them to stop leaking, but we're gonna hope this new transfer case has some magic in it and stops leaking on me. I did end up being able to make it to the junkyard the other day on the way home from work. I was able to find a 241C pigtail connector. Right as soon as I got in the junkyard, there was I think it's a 94 Silverado 2500, and it had the same T-case in it. This connector will work just fine, so I'll have to get that all hooked up to the terminator plugs and then take this guy off because that's not going to work with my shifter bracket I have in the Comanche. Right now I just have, and I have had for many years, is just a stock, I believe it's a Cherokee. I don't know if the Comanches came with this style 4-wheel drive lever or not, but because this was a 2-wheel drive truck when I got it. So I will get this guy off, then I'll be able to adapt it to the Comanche's one. Looks like I gotta clean up the mating surface on this transfer case a little bit more, so we hopefully don't have any leaking issues, because I'm kind of tired of it just puking transmission fluid out. I don't think they're supposed to leak between the back of the transmission and the front of the transfer case, but I have awful luck with it, and mine have always leaked. I know a couple other guys, my dad's truck leaks and whatnot, but we always seem to have issues with it. Start unbolting the Crossmember, get the front drive shaft unbolted, the rear drive shaft on the Comanche, all that stuff out, getting ready to take this one out, the old 261, which is probably going to end up in the scrapyard, and then I can lower that down. We'll get this guy swapped in there, and I'll probably end up just bench pressing that up in there. It's kind of a pain in the butt just doing it alone, but we can manage. I've done it many times before. Like, I've put 4 or 5 different transfer cases in this thing, and they all turn to shit eventually. Really hoping this 241 holds up, because I will have a different front drive shaft set up. So I'm pretty excited about this one. When this front drive shaft gets out, I'll put it up on the workbench here, and I'll show you guys how clapped out it is. I have a offset, I think it's a Tom Woods 1350 front drive shaft U-joint in there to give me some more angle. The yokes are all gnawed out from not having enough droop and whatnot, so we'll get this guy all torn down and start looking at what we're working with. All right, got the rear drive shaft out. That's no big deal. Front drive shaft's out as well. What I was explaining earlier with the yokes being gnawed out, I had to grind this with a grinder when I built this, and this drive shaft's done me fine for 4 years now. So I had to grind these yokes, I believe every angle, and take quite a bit of material away just for it to droop far enough down, because I have 14s on the Jeep, 14-inch coilovers on the Jeep, and I believe there's a pretty good amount of down travel, and there's no way it would just get bound up, and I would be having issues all the time, breaking stuff and whatnot. So I do want to explain kind of this whole front output shaft setup from the T-case to the front drive shaft and so forth a little more when I get the T-case out of the Jeep, which is the next step. Just because it's quite interesting. My buddy Jake Warner and Jeffrey Warner actually showed me a way to make that work, and it's done fine. I'll explain when we get the T-case out. The Jeep just lost about 50 pounds. I'm telling you what, that thing is not light when you're taking it out on a creeper. So I got the T-case out. Again, not very fun, but gotta do what you gotta do. I don't have a trans jack or nothing here to make it super easy. So I will show you guys what I'm talking about with the front drive shaft here, what my old setup was at least. So this is on a 261 out of 2001, 2002. I don't quite remember. It should be the same. Silverado 1500. And this is the front output on the transfer case. Drilled a 1/4 inch hole into this flange, and then you take a stock front drive shaft out of the same Silverado with this spline. You chop it off, you weld it to a yoke, you shove it in here because it fits, because this is from the stock drive shaft from this transfer case. And then you drill your hole, stick your splines in there. That's as far as I'm gonna go, but you get the point. Stick your splines in there, you'll line it up, but then you shove your 1/4 inch bolt through there, and boom, there's your slip yoke eliminator for the front. And then obviously that goes down to the axle and whatnot. So that is as simple as it can be. That's all you gotta do. That's what I did, and I ran it like that for 4.5, going on 5 years now, and I haven't had an issue with it. I'm surprised that 1/4 inch bolt hasn't broke or anything. That's what my old drive shaft setup was. I'm super excited to actually get a proper front drive shaft setup. I've never had an issue, but this should take care of a lot of my vibrations. I can't go over 10 mile an hour going downhill in 4-wheel drive. You should unlock your hubs, because this setup vibrates and it's out around and goes crazy. I think it's mostly because the offset U-joint I got in there. I'm excited to get an actual decent front drive shaft setup. So next step, again, clean this mating surface up. I gotta clean the mating surface up down here, get this old gasket material out of here and whatnot, and then I can bolt that T-case up. I already got it all cleaned up when I got it. Then we should have a decent T-case in the Jeep. Rear drive shaft, all that stuff will work just fine. That will bolt back up, and then I'll be stuck without a front drive shaft for now. Get one ordered, get measurements sent to probably Adams or Tom Woods, one of the bigger companies, and then we should be good to go. Let's get this T-case thrown in here, and I'll check back in. New transfer cases in. Got the old one still sitting right here. Ended up flipping it over, taking those studs out, and didn't realize that the breather's gonna spill all of the fluid I have in it on the ground. Realized I ended up running gear oil in this thing to try to thicken it up and make it not skip as much, but obviously that didn't help, because here we are now. So I got the 241C in there, got the rear drive shaft installed. I still have to wire up the speed sensor. Just put that plug on there, no big deal. It'll take just a second. And then we'll fill this guy up, probably run around down the road and whatnot, and just make sure everything's good. We don't have any issues. And then I will go ahead and order front drive shaft, take a couple measurements and whatnot, get that front drive shaft set up. The reason I have issues is because of the Crossmember here. If you can see, my front yoke pointed upwards, and the Crossmember right here is in the way. So that's the only way I was able to get it in there. I'm sure I could have thought about it a little longer and figured something else out, but I also realized my link tab down here is bent way in, which is probably not good for the Heim joint. Anyways, more and more stuff as I work on it comes up with the rig. So that's the way it goes. It's all part of it. But glad the transfer case is done. It was actually a lot more simple than I thought. It really wasn't a big deal. Everything bolts right up, no big issues, except obviously the front drive shaft. So super happy with how it turned out. I will take it down the road, take it on a little test drive, and make sure everything's good after I fill it up, put that speed sensor on. Other than that, we are good to go. Get that front drive shaft ordered, and we should be back on the trail in no time.